Okay, let's start. Let's see if everything's working, everything's fine. Oh god, I hope this works. Okay, let's see. Let me check for my phone, I guess. Everything's working, everything's fine. Oh god, I haven't been streaming for at least 2 months, I guess, like approximately. So 78. Let me just quickly write it. Everything's working, everything's fine. Okay, nice. Oh god, I haven't been streaming for at least 2 months, I guess, like approximately. So 78. Okay, good. It works. Sweet. It works. The stream is working. The show must go on. Let's go. Hey lads, my name is Skychrew and welcome to Little Misfortune. And okay, I already see one quick thing. Let me just do this quickly. Okay, now it should work. Yoink. Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be playing Little Misfortune game, full gameplay. As I promised, I'm going to be doing live stream. So hello Swappy, Johnny Gaming, and let's go. New game. I brought some snacks today, snacks. Let me know if the game is loud, let me know if it's okay. Okay. Benjamin. I played the demo of this game before, like I think 4 or 5 months ago I played the demo of this game from Killmonday games, and let's see what's gonna happen here. Yeah, the B, there you go. Hello, Sonic. Johnny Gaming, oh my god, thank you. Totally sponsored by Johnny Gaming TV. Thanks for donating $1. Thank you so much, man. Stay awesome. Hello, Sonic the Hedgehog. Hello, Snappy. Hello, Bane. How are y'all? Look at him, look at him. Look at him just trying to just do some portal stuff. Mama Luigi, nah man, that's weird to say. Hello Cassandra, how are you? The portal has been breaking! Oh my god! The seal of justice has been released. Oh my god. Santa Claus. Okay, that's better. Wow, the stream did not even start and somebody already donated. Nah, that doesn't really happen often. It's just, I guess, some random lucky moment. Welcome to my game!
Welcome to my game.
I played the demo, but I haven't gone far from the demo.
Host and humble narrator.
Why, thank you.
The rules of this game are simple. Play.
Oh my god, Swappy!
until the
Subscribe
end,
and BN and leave a like. Thank you so much, Swappy23.
Subscribe and leave a like.
Subscribe and leave a like. Thank you so much. What did she do? Oh my god. Thank you so much, Swappy23. Thank you.
Is Misfortune.
Little Misfortune.
She's a wonderful child from a not so wonderful family.
Everyone get hyped. Hypey time. I love this music.
A little sparkle for you, and a little sparkle for you, and a little bit for me.
Aww, so cute.
The sad part is
What?
today is the day she will die.
No, that's sad.
I can hear you, you know.
Oh, you can?
Mm-hmm. Are you inside my head or something?
So. I like the music of this.
Well,
I use it in a lot of my
okay.
videos.
Yes.
Alright.
Live stream, nice, yeah.
You, Mr.
I told you about yesterday.
What did you say about me dying today?
Die? No. Nobody
Nobody's
said
dying.
anything about anyone dying today.
Yep.
Nobody said nothing?
Nothing.
You know, I have prepared a game for you.
A game? Really?
10 people
For
watching, thank
me?
you.
If you can reach the end of the game, I'll give you
Goodbye,
eternal
Cassandra. Thanks for
happiness.
joining.
Deal?
Eternal happiness? I guess I could give that to my mommy. Okay, it's a deal.
Spooky
Wonderful.
time.
Fantastic. Ready to play?
Yes.
Your first
9 people
mission
watching.
is to
Thank
leave
hello.
the house.
So lucky today.
Okay.
9
I'm
people.
gonna do
Hey, we're in action. WASD.
Look, I made these paper dolls myself.
Okay.
This is Kimberly and this is Steven. They're on a trip fighting super evils.
Super evil monster. She can run actually. He's like, okay,
Look, I made these paper dolls myself. This is Kimberly and this is Steven. They're on a trip fighting super evils.
Wow. Who that voice talking creepy person? I don't know. Oh yeah, this is my favorite
to
one.
move my body. It's the music that goes on forever.
Forever. Get this music forever. Hey, she just keeps dancing.
Look, this is my secret hiding spot.
Oh, impressive. But why
How are you
do
doing today?
need
Not
a
bad.
hiding spot?
I don't like it when Mommy and Daddy argue too much.
Please let me know if the sound
When
is
I come
nice. I
here,
really need to know
can
if the sound is
dream and
good.
travel far away.
I see.
This is Babsy, the guardian of the secret spot.
Guard.
You see his eye?
Yeah?
He got that from a battle against a monster.
It's a spooky
A
monster.
That sounds scary.
It was.
It was. Oh my
This is my
god.
diary. Nobody's allowed to read it. Want to see?
Nobody's on. Oh, I see.
I'm so cute.
Did you draw all this?
Uh-huh. I love my coloring book.
Oh god. Take coloring book with you. Leave coloring book. Hi Skychrew, how are you? So, I guess. Not so good and then not so bad, but not even normal. It's like below normal. Kinda bad, I guess. I don't know. I think I'll take the coloring book.
I'm gonna take it with me if I get bored, okay?
Okay. Back. I think I should move the chats like in this way because it's kind of blocking and it's like kind of irritating me. Like this, I think. I'm not sure though. Yeah, I think that'll do. I don't know. So yes, there you go. Minecraft X Forever Bubsy. Yep. Wait, let me actually adjust it a little bit. Yep, there we go. That's the better. So let's go.
Before you leave,
Which toy?
do you choose to bring with you?
No,
Can't
this
I
is.
take them both?
No, you can only choose one.
That's true.
And remember, your choice is much more important than you think.
Okay. I choose.
I choose. So this is where we choose routes, right? Apparently in this game you can choose two, either unicorn route or stone. I think one is good, one is bad. I want to see what's the bad route. I don't know. Maybe because stone can maybe discover more about her father. I'm not sure. Stone.
I choose the stone Daddy threw at me once.
Interesting choice.
Yeah,
It's Nathalia.
I call him
Chris.
Stony,
Nathalia, I know
because
her.
he's a stone.
She's a woman
Get it?
who voiced a little Misfortune.
Stone.
Check Killmonday Games
very
channel.
clever.
There was a process
Thank you.
when she was showing the voice of Misfortune. She was doing the voiceover.
And so you know, I like to sprinkle sparkle on things so they become fabulous.
Sparkle.
Shadan!
So cute.
Happiness to everything!
Hell yeah. Well, it just runs away.
On the other side of the screen, remember I told you she was going to die today?
Yes?
Keep that a secret between us, all right?
That's just sad.
This is Grandma. She wears a diaper too.
You still wear a diaper?
Lamau.
That was so last year.
Let's go further.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
oh, please don't fall, don't fall.
Whoa.
Damn it, it's all broken now.
That
Sad.
was a beautiful example of cause and effect.
Please don't tell on me.
Don't worry. You can trust me.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have Twitter? Every single one of my video. There are 900 videos on my channel, and if you watch till the end of the video, you will see tag. on the side of the screen. So like there's 900 videos, 900 reminders of Twitter name, and in the links in the description, all the links on every single video, so it's obvious.
Maybe I could try to fix it.
Let's fix it. Fix the vase, please.
I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it.
Okay. Oh, we got to control from the mouse. Nice. Okay, so this goes probably here? I think. I don't know where this piece goes yet. I'm dumb. Help me. Help me, I'm dumb. Okay, this one goes here, definitely. I see there's another pieces. I'm dumb. Oh my god. I think it should go like... Oh my god, I just ruined it! I ruined it! Okay. Gosh darn it. Okay, carefully move it here. Where's the glue? You don't need the glue, you just put it in there. Okay, there you go. Yikes forever. Guess this one goes here. This piece goes here. And this one goes there. Oh, and obviously, yeah, extra piece. Yoink. Nice! I did it. I did it. I love her accent.
Look, that's me. Mommy told me I have to smile even when I'm sad.
You don't always have to smile. You can express your feelings. Yes.
My daddy's friend was a hunter and killed this
Yes, I'm not late.
His
I'm not
daughter,
really.
Erica, she thought his gun was a toy. She said bang bang to her mommy and daddy. Then her parents died, and she was so sad.
Super sad. Imagine that happening, dude. That's crazy. Can we? Nice. Poof. Okay. Let's go. A soup.
Ugh, it smells like cigarettes in here.
Yeah, that's my mommy. She also likes to drink.
Well, are you ready to complete your first mission?
Yes, I am. I'm gonna get that prize.
I'm gonna get that price. The price of eternal happiness.
Oh, dead rabbits again? When will Daddy learn I like them alive?
Oh, God. Wait, what? Oh, God, we get to sparkle them. Wait, what's that? That's a heart. You want that? You want some soup?
Yay! Happiness to the soup!
Sprinkle sparkles on the soup. What is this heart thing? I don't understand. It's so interesting. This wasn't on the demo though. More! More! And more!
We had a lovely dinner last night.
That's good.
Mommy wasn't that drunk and Daddy actually said hi to me.
That's just sad, dude. It's all yours, Scott. What do you mean? No, thank you. I don't want that
When
soup.
I grow up, I want to be just like my mommy, a juice drinker.
Nope, that's a wine. Can you actually sprinkle a sparkle? You can! She has sparkles! Oh, she actually saw the heart. Oh, that's so cool. Nah, thanks.
That's today.
11th of October. Let me see. 15th of December. It's kinda late. Of course I'm gonna say.
I'm going out to play, Mommy.
Oh, look at her dance.
Good day, morning.
It's afternoon, Misfortune.
Ah, okay. Good afternoon, morning.
Afternoon. Good afternoon, morning. It's morning time.
This is where I saw a really cute fox.
Benjamin.
I call him Benjamin.
There it is.
I've seen him around the house, right outside my window.
Wow.
I think he's really cute.
Please, Misfortune, you should be careful around wild animals. You shouldn't trust a fox. They're all criminals.
Criminal foxes.
Fox criminal? That's silly.
I know, right? Run! Okay. Run.
This pool smells like a toilet because I pee on it.
What?
That is disgusting.
Not as disgusting as when my daddy puked in it. That was disgusting.
Okay.
This is where daddy often sleeps.
In the car. Wow. Apparently, mother doesn't allow to go her husband inside the building. That's weird. He just stays in the freaking car. I'm gonna stay in the car. Sprinkle sparkle. Oh, we get to see the picture though. Interesting. Kitty.
Hello, kitty. Here, come, kitty. Kitty.
Oh God.
Kitty, don't go.
The cat just goes away. And away. And away.
Damn it. I never get to pet the sweet animals.
Sad.
So, before we continue, you need to know the rules of the game, Misfortune.
All right.
Remember,
What are the rules?
you will be given choices on your journey.
Okay, Susan.
There is no right or wrong, only consequences.
Okay. Only
She's
consequences.
so cute, adorable.
When you beat
Okay.
the game,
Okay.
the prize
Consequences.
of eternal happiness is yours.
I'm ready.
Your next mission
Yeah.
is to cross this road.
All right. I can do that.
She can. Look to the left, look to the right.
To the left. Look to the right. Any
cars?
cars?
No.
Okay, I'm going.
Tape. Yikes, dude! Holy crap!
I saw a monster.
That's a
What
spooky.
monster? I didn't see anything.
It was there. I saw it.
It's probably just your imagination.
Yeah, that's true. I have a very big one.
Just keep going. We'll have so much fun.
All right.
You're so happy about it. Run, Misfortune.
Look, a sleepy bird.
It's dead.
Come on, Misfortune. Let's go now.
Sprinkle sparkles on the bird. Her heart it's weird because I don't understand. How does this work if you does it mean that she's nice after this? This is where the demo ended. This is where I played the demo. And then that's it. The game ended. Now let's see what's gonna happen after. I don't know how much you can build. That much imaginations. Killmonday Games presents. Dude, I was looking forward for this game for such a long time, honestly, since the demo released. God, entire barn got freaking burned down, man. Crazy. A freaking satellite, dude. A satellite. Oh my god. Boom. Wow. This is where the game ended for me in the demo. Now, let's go in the full game. This is the new one. I never played this part, so let's go.
I used a lot of sparkle back there.
Wow.
Anyway, where are we?
This is new. Now let's go. Officially, gameplay starts here, lads. Oh my god. I didn't play before. Now let's go. Look at it.
There's a puppy.
Look at his eyes.
Hello, puppy. What a cute party hat.
Now focus, Misfortune. You have to make a very difficult choice.
She's kind of far from home.
Regarding this puppy now.
Oh.
Be aware of the consequences.
All right.
Play with it, set it free. Oh, what do we do? What do we do, lads? What do you think? I mean, the dog is cute. Play with it. I'm not sure. I mean, she's very far from home now. Let's play? Alright.
I will play with it so we can share a nice time together.
That's good.
Choice. Now throw the ball at it.
What ball?
This ball.
Ah, that
It just
ball.
randomly
Okay.
appeared. Jesus Christ! Poor Misfortune!
Puppy! What did I do? It's all broken now.
Holy
Mr. Boy,
shit!
everything I touch breaks. What's wrong with me?
There's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes life is just unfair. But
What
I'm
the
here for you.
Really?
Oh my god, no!
Sadly, the puppy will miss the party now.
What party?
The owner of this dog, George, is having a party. I think you have to go and tell him about the accident.
What accident? Ah, yes, the puppy, yes.
Let's go. It's just a bit
We
farther
killed the
ahead.
dog!
All right.
Can we at least sprinkles? You just threw a ball! Oh no! You told me! Oh, come on! Oh god!
I'll take the party hat as a symbol of our friendship, puppy doggy.
Sad, man, sad. Coca-Cola.
It says no dogs allowed. Oh, really?
That's a poop! That's a poop right there! Can we just yoink? Yeah.
Oh no, I step on doggy doo.
Doggy doo. Ugh!
Oh, sweet, I can see my footprint.
No, that's bad. It was Chris who told me.
Let's see what came out. I see a lot of glitter and... Is that right, pudding?
Jesus!
I can't watch this anymore. Please, let's keep moving.
Yes, please. I think I'm gonna make a fan art drawing when I have time of Little Misfortune. It's good. I like this game already so much. For det bästa är something in Swedish.
That sign doesn't work. Do you see all the crap lying around?
Exactly.
That's a good observation, Misfortune.
Hi, Merry Christmas, Skychrew.
Thank you.
1 billion likes, 9 billion, 1 billion, 1... What? Okay.
So, Misfortune, at the other side of this lake, you will be one step closer to the prize of eternal happiness.
And the party, right?
Ah, yes, that too.
Party. Oh, Johnny. Okay, then what does it say? Look. What does it say? For this pasta a tervin. So no, I'm excited. I know what I'm reading. I'm gonna quickly do this. Wait. Way much better. Yes, please. Yep, there we go.
You know, once at this lake, I got my head stuck in a plastic bag. I remember falling asleep and waking up in the hospital.
Oh god.
That's terrible.
That is terrible.
Yeah, I almost died.
This is name Misfortune. What kind of that's, dude? For your best.
Oh,
What? The crows picked her up? What?
What's happening?
I think you're in big trouble, Misfortune.
Yeah, tell me about it. Where are these birds taking me?
I have no idea.
Oh,
But you
what?
have to do something about it, fast.
Alright.
How to break loose? Kick them in the balls! No, I'm not gonna throw glitter. Kick them in the balls, yes!
Mommy told me once, if guys are annoying me, I should kick them in the balls.
Let's go!
And I asked, where are these balls? And she said, between the legs.
All right, that sounds like a plan.
Alright, here I go. Oh, kick!
Oh god, she's a parachute! She's a parachute!
This is taking a long time.
This is so weird!
We didn't even go that high up.
Well, time seems to slow down when we are in danger.
Am I in danger?
Yes. What the middle finger?
Look, a birdie. Hello, birdie.
Look at that.
That
The
was a
bird
rude
though, dude.
bird.
Yeah, it's a middle finger. Wow. No, she has a parachute.
Why didn't I break my legs and die?
You seem very good at falling.
Thank you.
And there she
So,
goes.
Mr. Voice,
I'm not even
is
moving.
the party on the same way to the eternal happiness?
Yes, yes it is.
Oh, that's convenient.
Have you thought about how to break the news to George?
About the puppy?
Yes. I mean, if you want to.
Oh! Will you tell George about the puppy accident? What happens if, like, in real life situation, right? Would I tell if this something happened like this? Telling the truth might have a relief for him because he would know the truth, the real truth. But it would be more hurtful to him. But if I say no, I would lie to him and would seem to be a bad person, right? And it would end up being very bad, so I think I will say yes.
Yes, of course. That's the least I can do for the sweet puppy.
That is very brave of you, Misfortune.
Thank you.
No, yes, we have to tell him.
Oh, look! A boat! Hello! Are we there yet?
Just a little bit farther away.
Wow.
Okay.
Along? I'm not even moving. A fish.
Ah, a fish!
What should we do about it?
Release it.
I would like to return it. It smells fishy. Oh my god!
Wait, what?
Bye bye.
Zake Zero, thanks so much for subscribing. Welcome to the Lads team. Thank you for subscribing. Oh look, she's smiling when she walks. That's so cute. I love it. I don't know. I love these types of games. I don't know. I don't play much games,
And
but
here we are.
the House of George. Oh no.
I'm a bit nervous about introducing myself.
You'll do fine. You're brave, telling the truth about the puppy.
Stop it. I'm doing it for the puppy, you know?
Fine, he gonna kill you, get revenge. What? What's the difference? What's the difference? The same in my country, it's no difference. I mean, knock on the door seems more rude, so I think ringing on the bell is best.
Nobody's answering. I'll invite myself in.
No! You don't just go and...
Check out the party.
You don't just go... No! You don't just go into another person's house. And there's no way back. Wow, there's no way back. Really? Well, damn, let's go then. You don't just go inside without telling somebody, honestly.
I saw a man once floating in the lake, just like this fisher.
Okay. Oh, I think that's his father and him. What?
Hello?
What is it, Misfortune?
Nothing.
It's a ghost of that child! That child. God, this thing is so hot, dude. Like, I mean, wearing this is so, like, it just burns my head, like, so warm. I mean, I'm okay, it's just,
Are you sure this is the right house? Where is the party? Hello?
It's a spooky Misfortune. How are you? I'm... So, let's go.
Excuse me, are you George? Are you the owner of a puppy? Because I bring really bad news.
Holy
Oh no,
shit.
wait. It looks like he hung himself.
Holy
Hang
shit.
himself like a piñata? Should I hit him like a piñata?
No!
No, Misfortune. He's dead.
Dead? But he's wearing a pair of sweet boots. He can't be dead. Oh, okay.
Hey, Misfortune, I think this party's over. Let's leave.
Yes,
I'll meet
please.
you in the back.
George, you know, now that you're dead, your puppy is gone. I like the puppy. Bye.
What kind of I don't know. Oh, okay. No questions.
Shadam! Happiness to George the Piñata!
Let's move on.
Okay, I'm here now.
Let's go into the woods and get that eternal happiness.
Yes.
At least the puppy, I mean, the puppy would still have no owner, so I'm not sure, no. We could have kept the puppy. I think we could have kept the puppy though.
Ah, I love the woods with the trees and the birds and the animals.
Dangerous animals, Misfortune. You might run into a fox.
A fox?
Benjamin.
Like Benjamin?
Yes,
Yes,
Misfortune.
but all foxes are evil, so keep your eyes open.
Alright.
Hello, ALG. ALG4. Hello, how are you? Oh god. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Some snacks.
Huh. What's this? A doll?
Everything begins with the song of a jackdaw.
Everything begins with the song of a jackdaw. Alright. Everything begins with the song of a jackdaw. Alright.
Oh, it's different.
Everything begins with the song of a jackdaw. Alright.
Okay, let's see. I just checked.
Interesting. I'll keep it.
Hey, what do you have there?
Nothing.
Wait, what? She's lying to him.
Stay back, Misfortune.
What is it?
A wild, dangerous fox.
Wait, I recognize that black tail. It's Benjamin.
What is he drawing?
Doesn't matter. Attack it before it kills you.
Nah, I don't think Benjamin will kill me.
Oh god. Oh god.
Hello, is your name Benjamin? Do you want to play with me?
He just runs away.
Oh.
What a relief. We are safe now. Let's keep playing my game.
Okay.
There's a magical cave nearby. You need to find it.
A magical cave?
Magical,
Okay.
magical boy. Magical cave for magical girl. Wow.
It looks like Benjamin likes to paint. That's pretty cool. I like that in a fox.
Focus, Misfortune. We need
She's
to
into
keep
fox.
going.
Okay.
This is going weird. What if she's in a relationship with a fox? Oh, that's weird. Going. Yet they have wood of Slenderman. He don't care. Let not play game if got killer. Hello, Jen. Like, how are ya? Oh no, this person died from a rock.
Oh, is this the magical cave? It doesn't look that magical.
Just wait until you go inside.
Oh, I like the
He's
sound of
laughing.
that.
He's laughing
I
like
have
a maniac.
question. What does this sign mean?
Oh, I don't know. Sparkles?
Ah, cool.
He's
So,
lying to her.
Whenever you're ready.
He's lying to her. Stay in the forest. Oh, what happens? What happens? What happens? Stay in the forest.
I'll just stay in the forest.
But then you won't find the eternal happiness.
Okay. I'll just stay in the forest.
So we have
But
no
then you
choice.
won't
Alright, I
find
see.
the eternal happiness.
Okay.
Okay, I see. Let's go.
I can't wait to see the magic inside.
Oh, that's a trap. Oh my god. Such a huge mistake. The police. Who are you gonna call, Monkey? Who are you gonna call?
It's huge. Echo.
Well,
Okay.
let's explore the cave.
Okay.
That's cool.
I'm just joking. There was no echo. It was me.
You're a real comedian, Misfortune.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow, what the heck?
What's that?
What?
There's a
Did I miss
hamster on the car.
I'm not sure.
Imagination. The more you know. Hey,
What's this?
hey.
A hamster party?
A magic
Life needs hamster.
party. I know you love parties.
Can we go inside?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
Let's go find out.
What a stupid reference.
Whoa, hamster fight!
Are you going to do something about it?
And the violence between the hamsters. Hell nah.
I don't want to get involved in their drama.
Hiya! Oh, dude. That's crazy.
See? They went inside to party.
Okay.
It
Oh,
looks like
shit.
someone spilled their ketchup.
It's blood. God damn. Can I pick the knife though?
Oh, are those mints? Maybe I should try one, so I can keep my breath fresh. I'm a little lady, you know.
This is going so weird. Oh god. She tried the pill.
Wow, I'm feeling really nice.
What the frick? Jesus Christ. Imagination. She's high. Oh my god, he's high. The drugs, bro. The drugs, bro. He's very high. That's true. It's true. Wow. Oh, she vomited. Ew.
Wow, that wasn't a mean to refreshment.
That's bad.
All.
Are you all right, Misfortune?
I'm okay.
Whew.
Excuse me, how the little lady get inside? No, I'm not very important, you said? Okay. Can you believe this guy, Mr. Voice?
Wow.
We have to find another way out now.
We cannot go to see the news. Oh, the car.
Tiny cutie cars are killing me with their cuteness. So cute.
Oh no, they're making out, look.
Look at them. With their tiny cocktails and their tiny clothing. This is too cute for me.
Yoink! You guys enjoy yourselves. Wow, we go further! What a crazy place, huh? Oh god.
Check that lady out. I think she's in trouble.
Oh no, I think I recognize her. She's the owner of the club back there.
Really?
Yes, looks like she was robbed.
Oh, I bet it was that hamster with the black mask.
Yes, you're right.
Can we get to help?
Excuse me, I think I have your purse.
Ah, we help her!
Easy on the mints though. I tried one and it was a wild ride. Is that for me? Where is
VIP,
it?
hell yeah! We're going in, boys!
That's your reward for returning the bag. A VIP ticket for the club.
I get to party inside the club?
Yes, and one step
So
closer to
stupid.
the eternal happiness.
The game's just
That's
telling me
a
to do
win-win
this.
for me.
Alright, boys. Well, I guess there's nothing here. There's no choice. The game is telling me to go. What hell VIP for? PC game, can she even fit? I don't know.
Excuse me, I'm a very VIP. Here's my ticket.
No, go home, please.
A real party.
How did she go inside, though?
Wow,
What?
This place is so sweet. Is this the VIP floor?
The hamsters
Yes,
are the
you
same
could
size
say
as her.
Am I allowed to dance?
Of course you are.
Sweet.
Listen, Misfortune, you need to find the
Yeah.
white rabbit.
A white rabbit? Why?
It will lead you closer to the eternal happiness.
Okay, I'll find it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let's go. Let's the party, man.
You're cute. So cute. Is that strawberry juice? Mm.
Do they have eyes? Yoink.
Excuse me, can you let me through?
What the fuck is that?
No, Stony, what are you doing? This is not the time.
What's happening?
It looks like this hamster challenged Stony to a dance battle.
What?
No, we don't have time for this.
I'm
It's like a
sorry,
pimp.
Jason. Rock and roll, Stony.
What? God, that dude though. Oh hell yeah, let's go.
Perfect. Sweet. Great. You're on fire.
I don't see. I'm looking on the arrow. Sorry.
Great. Sweet moves.
Ah, I missed.
Shake that booty. Dance. Super. I love you. Cute. Perfect. Sweet. Right. You're on fire. Oi.
Hell yeah.
Sweet moves. Sucky. Shake that booty. Slow. Dance. Super. I love you. Cute. Perfect. Sweet. Great. You're on fire. Oi. Great. Sweet moves. Shake that booty. Dance.
Hell yeah, I like this game.
I love you. Cute. Perfect. Sweet.
Dude, this is cool.
Perfect. Sweet.
I can't read the chat for now.
Fire. Great. Sweet moves. Shake that booty. Bounce. That move. Super. I love you. Cute. Perfect.
GTA San Andreas flashbacks. I think I need to wash my eyes. When that animal goes on now, what the heck was that? Rock dance, epic dance.
Proud of you.
Send a
I'm
report.
sorry to interrupt, but we really need to get going. The eternal happiness is still out there.
Call already called. Maybe I open up.
Yes, I really
I
want
subscribe to the
let's
channel,
go.
thank you. Hope you're enjoying the content so far. Oh my god, this is cool, dude. Hello, Fredbear Gaming.
Look, the white rabbit.
Follow it.
Yes.
Ah, so fast. Oh wow, wow, whoa, where did we end up
Hey,
being?
you, on the other side of the screen.
What is it?
Listen, I know it must be hard not knowing much about our little lady's future.
Exactly.
Will Misfortune really die? If so, how will she die? And when will the evil fox kill her? Will she find the eternal happiness?
Who knows?
I personally hope she does.
Read the title of the stream.
She's coming.
Act normal. Wow, she's powerful.
Oh, Misfortune, you made it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Where are we?
We're one step closer to the grand prize of eternal happiness.
Great, because I'm not allowed to be outside this late, you know.
Don't worry, it's not far from here.
Great.
She's so far from home, oh my god.
Look, a missing kid.
Kid missing. It kinda looks like Misfortune, but in a way
I
different.
don't like this. Maybe I should go back home. Bye.
What?
So now, Misfortune, I can protect you.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Alright
Ah.
then.
She just wanted to go home, look at this. I like and hit the bell. That's what you should do, thank you so much. That's the mood, thank you.
Hello.
Oh god. That's the ghost! The ghost first! That's weird.
Ugh, smells like bullcrap.
Misfortune, watch your language.
Okay. A unicycle. Get it?
Very clever, Misfortune.
Thank you.
I like the environment. It's so good environment, dude. Phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria. The horror face.
Phantasmagoria is coming to Openfield? That's so awesome!
Maybe we could
Well,
find
wait.
time to check it out later. Who knows?
Right. Don't play with my feelings now.
Let's focus on finding the eternal happiness first. Then we'll see.
Alright, I can't wait.
It's full gameplay. I don't know. I don't know how long the live stream will be because it's full gameplay. It's just full gameplay. I'm not gonna. The second part is gonna be full gameplay.
Look, it's Benjamin from
Benjamin!
The You know, if you ever want to hang out or something, I'm available.
Don't engage with that wild
Wow.
fox. I told you, foxes are
Wow.
dangerous.
Let me handle this. Benji, are you a wild, dangerous fox? No, Benji, don't go!
He was
Let
sad.
that wild beast run off. I don't want anything bad happening to you.
Alright. Ah, this is Benji's stuff. This is absolutely the best art I have ever seen. It's so personal. I didn't know Benjamin was so creative.
She loves him.
Creative? That looks like a child has drawn it.
What
Exactly.
did you just say?
Oh, I didn't.
She's
think
angry at
of
us.
that.
Huh.
Hey, shouldn't we be focusing on finding the prize?
I'm focused.
He's getting angrier. He's getting angrier. Hide your child. Hide your child. That's what it says.
Are we going to the park?
Yes.
Okay.
Run, Misfortune!
Slow down, you fuck!
Misfortune.
You heard it.
Language.
Ah,
She's a nice. She is unique. One of a kind, I'm telling you.
Mr. Voice,
Yes, Misfortune.
has anyone reached the end of the game and gotten the eternal happiness?
Yes, of course.
Oh,
They
okay.
lived happily ever after.
The crow died.
That sounds nice. You know, I want to win this prize for my mommy. I wish I could give her some happiness. My sparkle doesn't work with her.
Oh, that's really sweet of you.
Thank you.
Another dead
Would
crow.
you like to try my sparkle?
That's not necessary.
Ha, don't be silly. Here you go. Happiness to Mr. Voice!
Oh, well. Thank you. Anyway, let's go find the prize and make Mommy proud.
Yes.
Exactly. Another dead crow. She's killing crows. Oh, it's evening already. Evening at the park. Doggy poop.
It says, don't feed the birds. Ah, okay.
Okay. What? It's me!
Go. It looks like Kevin's dad.
Who's that?
He used to sit in the sandbox next to school. He didn't have any clothes on.
I'm joking, I'm
and
joking.
The police
I'm
officer
joking,
beat
boys.
him with a stick.
Too bad you don't have any fish to offer the seagull. They love fish.
Oh,
Are
fish!
you trying
That's...
to make me feel guilty about the fish from earlier? I made a hard decision back there, and I stand behind it.
I understand, Misfortune.
So that's
Just
what the
say
fish was for.
Well, stop saying.
Alright, so the fish was to help the seagull. Can we just... Nope, we can't. Burp drunk, yeah.
Would you like to ride the royal horse of the park?
Yes, please.
Royal horse, you say? I'm a little princess, you know. Look at me. I'm on the horse. Aye, horsey, stop it. Oh.
God damn it, again! Slapped in the face. Always the pain.
That was unfortunate.
Are you all right?
I'm okay. Are you worried because I'm such a little lady?
Of course. You are really tiny and you could break.
I broke my arm once.
Wow.
So you know what I mean.
I didn't know. Come on, Chris. I never played this game. This is the first time. She's gonna vomit again. Oh, hell yeah.
Duck.
Let's just go, Misfortune. You don't want to get
Battle.
involved with
I want to
ducks.
battle. Dance battle. Let's
Don't
go.
be silly. Ducks are pretty
Oh
cool.
shit.
And like
Oh shit. Snoop
queen of
Dogg.
ducks, this could be my opportunity to finally dance for real.
Would you like to show me some of your dance moves?
Show your dance skill. Yes. Yes. Let's go.
Of course. Check this out.
Oh, I thought we could press the buttons again.
It's okay. It's okay.
That was unfortunate.
What are you talking about? That was normal.
Oh, if you say so.
No, that's not vape. You can see that he's not holding an electronic cigarette. That's something else. You can see the roll. Dude, this is cool. So this is the distance, alright.
Would you like to ride this one? It's like a tornado.
No!
Nah, too much rolling for the little lady.
Yeah, I think that will end up bad again. Go to the bench? What? Wait, you mean that I can go back to the bench? What do you mean? There's no bench near the duck. A great game of an animal smoker and the... Oh, dude. Ah.
This looks like the art of Benjamin, don't you think?
Yep.
I think it's garbage, and it should be erased with fire.
Wow!
Really, I see great potential here. He's obviously very artistic.
Just
He hates
ignore
her.
it. Let's keep playing my game. The prize is closer than you think.
Really? Alright.
Hello, Aiden Garcia. How are ya? Get some bet in the... Get some bet dance moves. What is the game? Read the title of the stream. What do you think the villain? Howdy. Hello, robotic artist.
I can almost feel the eternal happiness.
Good. The last challenge awaits at the pet cemetery.
Oh,
A
damn.
pet cemetery? That sounds like the best place to end the game.
Exactly my thoughts. I'm glad you feel the same way.
No! You're evil, goddamn. Your voice, dude. Yeah.
So, I was thinking while we're walking, mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, I'm pretty good at answering questions.
Great. Just answer as honestly as you can.
Alright.
First question. Have you ever stolen anything?
About Misfortune. Did she stole anything? Did Misfortune stole anything? From the beginning of the game we were in the house, then we weren't there. Nothing. She returned the purse, she took the pill. I think no, she didn't steal anything yet.
No, never.
Never? Good for you. Second question. Are you happy right now?
No.
Well, not really. Many things make me sad. That's why I want the prize so much. Then I can stop pretending I'm always happy.
What do you mean, LG?
I see.
Be
Well,
my what?
the last question. Do you feel loved?
Personally, no. I think Misfortune too.
No, that's why I like my Stony so much. He's just